Hi, welcome back. This is Wan Lin, La Princesse des Beaux-Arts. And today I want to talk about a touchy subject that really needs to be explored, which is the many subtle forms of self-harm that have become widely accepted and almost prevalent in society. Not all forms of self-harm are what you think they are, okay? A lot of them are Trojan horses that have leaked into and taken over daily routines and modern life. Things like casual sex, harmful relationships, alcohol and drugs under this guise of socializing and sexual liberation, extreme diets or food addiction, dressing, behaving, acting out for attention-seeking reasons, not because you're actually expressing yourself so much, doing extreme tattoos or body modifications without long-term considerations for what this means for you, holding this indulgent victim mentality and looking for reasons to be unhappy, and also manipulation. These are just some of the things I'll be covering, okay? And before I start, just a reminder that the intention in which you do something matters the most, in my opinion, and how this unfolds for you. So you can consciously partake in all of these activities, and if you're doing it in a context that works for you, I don't see a problem with it, especially if you understand the consequences and why you choose to behave or partake in an action. I suggest and recommend for everyone to live life that way, to really understand and actively decide consciously what they want. But in the meantime, these are some of the ways that I find people are really limiting themselves. I will start off with the most intense ones, okay? Casual sex is like a Trojan horse. For example, I've noticed that some people, especially younger women, when they don't have a healthy relationship to male figures, they can use casual sex in a way to sort of act out revenge on their exes or parental figures, especially the father figure. So it's a form of acting out and a form of almost mirroring back the level of respect and care that they received from previous boyfriends or their father or whatever, and then having that sort of almost demeaning and loveless intimate relationships to mirror that. And it's sort of like, oh, you taught me it was okay to be like this, and now because I'm an extension of you by having dated you or being raised by you, then I will do this to like harm you back. I just said something that will probably upset a lot of people and like punch you in the exact point where it hurts, right? But this is actually how you overcome these patterns. So where in your life are you self-sabotaging or self-harming as an incognito form of vengeance on the people who were important to you? Really think about that for a moment, okay? This goes on to my next point, which is harmful relationships. Now, I understood a while ago, even before my spiritual awakening, that the romantic partner and the friends you have, the relationships you maintain in your day-to-day life are a direct reflection of your self-concept and self-worth. You are constantly emitting a signal in your reality on how people should treat you, and large amounts of this are subconscious. From the words you choose, like in neuro-linguistic programming, to the posture you have, the intonation of your voice, the way you maintain eye contact or respond to different situations. Because we can't consciously control all of these, we as human beings, magnetic animals and spirits, we sense these out in other people. Okay? This is how the as above, so below principles work. The smallest detail about a person's behavior can reveal so much about the programs running their lives by operating through their minds. So what kind of relationships in the past have you now noticed, or even currently, are affirming areas of your life where you have low self-confidence or some sort of negative energy? So this could come as examples of is there a repeating issue in your friend group? For example, years ago, this could be me constantly talking about boy problems, which now I don't have that anymore. A lot of my friends are in really healthy relationships, and I'm really happy for them. And I could say something very subtle, and one of my friends would flip off and then start ranting on me about, I was walking home one day after dinner, and my friend, she was in this unhealthy, toxic relationship. I'm sharing this story with the intent of helping you recognize this in your own lives so you can absolve this issue. And I said something along the lines of, I always walk on the inside of the road if I'm with a man or if I'm with a taller girl. And I'll always walk on the side of the road if I'm with a shorter friend, to maintain this sort of protective behavior with the people I care about while walking in the roads of Paris where there are lots of traffic and cars. And then my friend sort of got triggered and she exploded at me saying you think you're treated so well. Yeah, I'm a princess, la la la. And yet you still have such a crappy love life. So what are you talking about? So in these moments of triggers, of lashing out, these are the greatest gems of your life because they tell you exactly, in a pinpoint sense, what needs to be resolved and improved. So this is why when bad things happen, so to speak, I always consider it to be a brilliant gift. Even if in the moment, no one teaches you to think like this, really. Until you hit a certain point where you realize this is how reality works. This is how the world works. If I want to create my life instead of being a result of my environment, this is how I got to see what's going on in front of me. So in that moment, I realized, oh, wow, my friend here who's lashing out at me is not the problem. My friend is actually showing me what part of my belief system feels this is acceptable. Because what she told me, she was just being a channel, a voice for my deep-seated negative beliefs, right? And think about what part of your life these sort of relationships exist. Now, on the next point, I made a cute little list on this Snoopy paper for y'all, just for y'all, okay? The next point would be alcohol, drugs, and illicit substances. Now, ever since I've become spiritually attuned and really sense out the flow of energy in the world, some people would call it psychic. I don't necessarily use that word because it has lots of connotations attached. But what I've noticed with alcohol and drugs is that every human being has an aura, a spiritual, energetic body. What happens when you take these sort of substances, especially when it's not intentional, so let's not get it twisted here, when you're going to a wine tasting, that's not the same as drinking and relying on wine or beer spirits to be your main stress relief. Those are different situations. Like I said at the start of this video, the intent behind your actions and the consciousness level, self-awareness level you have going into these behaviors affects the outcome. So understand what I'm conveying to you right now. When you rely on substances for your internal regulation of your feeling state, like stress, calm, peace, tranquility, sociability, you are giving away your power. And when you participate, when you consume these substances, what I see from a spiritual perspective and what I sense out is that your aura, your energy body surrounding your physical body actually gets more permeable. And it's similar to when people undergo trauma. There are these openings in your aura where entities, which can show up in strange beliefs or negative thoughts that send you in a spiral and can actually influence you to behave badly. This is not a cop-out to say, oh my God, I was drunk driving and killed a bunch of kids and it was the spirit, it was the demon that did it. No, you can't. I'm not accepting that, okay? What I'm saying here is be aware that when you participate in such substances like alcohol and drugs, you're opening up yourself to a lot of potentially lower vibrational spirits that can literally infiltrate you and start to ratatouille you. Do you want to be ratatouilleed? I'm trying to use humor to get this across, okay? So understand there are these openings in your aura that happen when you're under the influence, and these negative entities that feed you negative thoughts and rumination can actually like spiral. And no one likes a downward spiral unless if you just really hate yourself. So the next point would be extreme diets or food addictions. Now, when I used to live in Paris, I had a really wise neighbor and he gave me a lot of great life advice. He said once that anyone who eats like way too much or way too little or has some sort of dysregulated diet generally has some sort of emotional imbalance in their life, spiritual imbalance in their life. And I find that to be really true. Now, what I'm going to preface this with is I know that everyone has different diets that work for them. And I will be the last person to tell you, you need to do this and that in order to have a good life. No, I can only give you what I've seen play out for me and others. So the way you eat is actually extremely personal. I would go as far to say that if you look at the way someone eats, you can infer like what they are like as a lover or in their intimate relationships or in their intimate preferences. Because eating is how our physical beings incarnated on this earth take in energy and sustain ourselves. And it is such a personal thing. So when you have extreme diets, strange food addictions, or even dependency, it could be a symptom warning you that you have some deep-seated imbalance in your life. So for example, I've noticed this, that a lot of people, especially women, will substitute love with sugar. And some men, when they're upset, and women, this is like for everyone, when they're really upset, will go to food as a means of comfort. Especially, I'm looking for the Taurus moon and Cancer moons, Cancer suns, especially these astrological signs I've noticed. They tend to eat and drink to soothe themselves. So I think we can all admit that this is actually helpful in certain situations, but it's not helpful when it becomes a lifestyle, okay? If you're going to like eat a box of chocolates during a breakup or a sad moment in your life while crying in the bathtub, enjoy that and be conscious that it is what you're doing, right? I'm here to give you consciousness and self-awareness about everything I'm saying here. But when you on a day-to-day basis have an extreme diet, I'll give you some examples from my life, okay? When I was a teenager, I really did not like the way I looked. I would like go as far as to beg my parents for plastic surgery. That was where I was coming from, okay? You have to understand that's the level of self love, or should I say hatred, loathing, I was coming from for a good many years of my life. I felt less than a whole, complete, worthy human being. And part of my soothing mechanism was starvation or restriction. So that showed up as only eating raw fruits or vegetables, and like walking miles and miles to the grocery store from my boarding school just to buy things that I would eat, because I wouldn't eat things from the dining hall. And if I did, it would just be by myself. So that is an example of where food and what you consume physically shows you a sign of how your soul is imbalanced. And it's a warning for you to go inward to heal that. For example, in my case, I was restricting for a form of security and safety and an affirmation of my worthiness. Because at the time, because I did not feel like a complete whole human being, I did not feel worthy to eat food like a complete normal human being, whatever you call that. And once I became balanced from an emotional state, I could eat when I'm hungry and not eat when I'm not hungry, which years ago, if you told me I could do that, it would blow my mind because it did not seem possible. I would go from starvation to food addiction, starvation to food addiction. So really, if you have any abnormal diet behaviors or cravings, ask yourself, and your soul your body and soul know the answer to everything if you can be quiet and attuned enough to listen. All right? So there's one form of self-sabotage and self-harm. Next, dressing or acting out for attention in destructive ways. Okay. I have noticed this in my life, that sometimes when I'm not satisfied with a relationship or this current state of my life, I will go to a salon, ask for a super short haircut, and then be upset at the end of it, looking in the mirror when I realized my life did not magically become perfect within 2 hours of someone cutting my hair. I also think that for some people, remember, all of these instances I'm talking about, there are exceptions, but that does not mean these exceptions you're talking about disprove any of what I'm saying. So what I'm saying here is I've noticed some women, including myself, cut their hair extremely short or transform it in like almost brutal ways when at some point in their life it does not feel right, and it's almost like a ritual in hopes to fix it. And it's also like a form of harming your femininity symbolically. That's how I see it in the past for myself. In moments where, like, I remember right before going to boarding school / high school, I decided to get a really short haircut, like boy short. And on the first day of school, a girl in my class mistook me for a boy. That's so funny looking back on it. So really understand, looking back, there were multiple times in my life where I cut my hair really short. And then I would cry and dream about having it long again, which thank goodness it grows back. But I think this is something a lot of people aren't willing to say out loud. That sometimes when you're cutting your hair very short, it's a form of like cutting down your femininity because your life is screaming at you. The conditions of your life are screaming at you basically that you're not deserving, you're not worthy, and you're not lovable. So like, what's the point of you trying to be a pretty princess or whatever? Like, and then like shearing off your hair is a form of like, you know what? You think I deserve this little life, God or whatever? Okay, fuck you. Look at me. I'm just going to cut this all off. Yeah. So having like a Britney moment, completely shaving your head. Some women completely shave their head and it's beautiful. And it's a great spiritual moment of growth. But at the same time, it's very true that for some women, some people, completely cutting off your hair is a form of desperation. And also, I'm going to go on speaking, behaving in destructive ways. So sometimes you can find like a social movement or belief system that you just completely take on and use it as an excuse or vessel, channel to bring out your anger, your energy, your sacred rage. There are healthy ways of expressing your rage and all of these emotions that deserve to be heard and expressed. But destruction and rage and just like fighting people online or all of these different ways that take up a lot of your energy and life force is actually not the healthiest. And in the past, when I did that, was pretty self-indulgent. So I know this is not a popular thing to say out loud and could get you a lot of hate, but this is just what I've observed from my own life and from my surroundings. The next point will be tattoos or body modifications, like long-term body modifications. Doing them without considering the long term of how this affects you and whether you're ready to live with that. So I do not have any tattoos or piercings besides my earlobes. And my reasoning behind that, very frankly, is that first, I think tattoos can be really beautiful. But if I were to go for a tattoo, I would need like a full Japanese gangster wife, Yakuza girlfriend back and sleeve, and dragons and flowers and waves. And I think I have a high emotional pain tolerance, but my physical pain tolerance is like 0. So that's A, why I choose not to do any tattoos. And B, tattoos actually activate spiritual portals on your physical and energetic body. So the channel This Is Maria, which is one of my favorite spiritual channels, she has a great video explaining the spiritual implications of tattoos and piercings on her channel. And a little bit of that is when you create a symbol on your body that's permanent, or even you tattoo someone's name, for example, you create a permanent spiritual portal / access point from that entity or person to your physical and spiritual being. So when you tattoo someone's name, like a boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever, husband, wife, on you, you become like a eternal energy donor to them as long as you're alive. Are you comfortable being a permanent energy donor to someone? Like, one thing that I find really cute is that Nicola Peltz, her husband, Brooklyn Beckham, has her eyes tattooed on the back of his neck, which is one of the most spiritually sensitive places on a person's body. It's called the spirit gate or spirit portal. And in the movie The Matrix, when you see people plugged into the simulations or whatever, it's through the back of their neck. It's very true. A lot of these movies are telling you the truth in disguise. I find it so like adorable and insane, borderline chaotic, that he has all of her writing, her love letters, name, and eyes tattooed on his body. He is a total simp, which is great. Great for her. But he is, in this case, a constant energy donor to his wife. So before you open any portals in your body through the form of tattoos and piercings, really consider, is this something you actually want for the rest of your life? And this is for the same reason I don't do revenge or love spells. Us as human beings in a concrete, fixed space-time reality, or as it seems in our day-to-day life, don't always have the highest perspective on how things unfold through decades going forward. So really stop and think, the tattoos you want, are these spiritual emotional, physical associations you really want to carry for the rest of your life. Because the rest of your life, it's not just a sentence. It's just not a word that you speak out of your mouth. It is very much real. Okay? Now, the next thing, having a victim mentality or looking for reasons to be unhappy. Ooh, I did this for years in my life, okay? And what I've realized is that feeling sorry for yourself is one of the lowest vibrational states that only draws more lack into your life and thereby more victim mentality. It's kind of like Queen Elizabeth I putting on lead makeup to cover her skin problems, thereby making her skin problems worse and putting on more lead makeup. That was a real thing. So I want to put it this way. I think of victim mentality and feeling sorry for yourself as a form of self-indulgence. Going through life, we won't be 100% immune to these moments where it's just like, oh, why the fuck is this happening to me? This is like just way too much. And in moments like this, I like to think of feeling sorry for myself as kind of like eating a chocolate cake. When I'm going to feel sorry for myself, I need to be aware that I'm doing this so it doesn't become like a day-to-day thing. When I'm going to eat a massive chocolate cake with ice cream and sprinkles and an insane amount of maraschino cherries, I'm going to be aware that I'm doing this and that this is not a meal, that this is something I'm doing just to feel a certain way and to enjoy a certain experience in the moment. Because if I were to like completely give it up, I don't think that would necessarily be realistic. I don't think it's necessarily realistic to never eat chocolate cake for the rest of my life. I don't think it's necessarily realistic to expect myself to always be happy when the worst thing like just hits me in the face, right? So what I became aware of once I had my spiritual awakening, as you can see in my last video, was that your focus actually votes into reality and manifest the kind of surroundings you have. So through your attention, you are drawing closer one of the trillions of potential realities to unfold. That's why your attention is so valuable, okay? Your attention is the spiritual energy that draws to you the reality you consciously or unconsciously will for yourself. That is why having a abundance and benevolent eye on everyone versus having an evil eye and always just looking for reasons to be unhappy, they lead to such different outcomes. Two people with different views of the world in the same environments go on completely different trajectories. Now, the last thing I'm going to touch upon for this video is manipulation. Why I do not force things, in my environment, in my life. I don't force myself. I don't force others. I don't try to control. I can put into place conditions, favorable conditions for the things I want to occur, okay? Attraction, preparation versus force and control. But I will not manipulate. So what does this mean? For example, I don't do love spells or hexes or vengeance spells or act with those intents. First of all, I know that what people call magic is real. Manifestation, reality creation, whatever. I know it's real because I've seen it in the most insane ways, from changing the weather to resolving transportation delays to not getting injured after a car crash just because I did spiritual healing on myself in the moments afterwards. Yeah, it's very much real, and I know it is. So with that knowledge comes a great responsibility. Why I do not do love spells or hexes on people? It's because, first of all, when this sort of karmic imbalance occurs, it is not my place to rebalance the scales out of force. The mathematical organizing principles of this reality are really intricate, and I don't need to mess with that, because oftentimes the people who hurt you, their existence is the punishment. And you interfering with that is only going to take upon yourself some of that nastiness. Also, why I don't do love spells? Do I believe you can manifest whatever person you want? I kind of do, because I've seen it happen. But at the same time, the problem with spells, well, especially love spells and revenge that impedes upon free will, is that it doesn't lead to what you think will make you actually happy. It doesn't unfold in ways that you think would make you actually happy. Because we as human beings in the physical reality don't always have the highest perspective or bird's eye view of how things can unfold. If I had stayed with and gotten to marry whoever I wanted years ago, I think I would be totally fucked. Okay, low battery, just wait a minute. If I married that French Catholic arms dealer and went to be his little wife and like pop out kids for him, I think I would just have like walked out of my family one day to travel to the world, to be honest. So doing a love spell in the moment, like getting your ex back or trying to force someone to fall in love with you, you don't see the highest perspective on how these things would unfold, and it could really hurt you and keep your biggest blessings away, which is really dangerous, and you don't know that from your limited human perspective, okay? It is not channeling your higher self, having the bird's eye view of your highest self. It's not something that I see people doing on a day-to-day basis enough for me to believe that doing love spells or revenge hexes can really work. And another thing, when you're doing when you're acting in vengeance, even like magic or spells, in order for that to work, you actually have to become a channel. Human beings were channels, right? We're channels for divine energy, positive, good or bad, or negative. And in order to channel like vicious, violent energy, you have to drop yourself down to a resonance that could vibrate with hatred and violence. And for me, that's just never really worth it, I find. In the moments where I actually do crash out and lose my shit and just actually act out on my anger, which oftentimes it had valid reasons. That's not an excuse though. I find it actually damages both sides. It's like a sinking ship, and it's a double-edged sword. So that's why I don't participate in manipulation. I don't seek revenge, and I don't do manipulative spells that impede on other people's free will, because these are incognito, subtle forms of self-harm and self-sabotage. That's all I have for today. Let me just go over these real quick. First of all, casual sex, under the Trojan horse of freedom, liberation, only do it if it's actually benefiting you. And you have to be a specific kind of person to think that. And is it really working for you? Be brutally honest with yourself. Second, harmful relationships. Your interpersonal relationships are a direct mirror of your self-esteem and self-concept. Where can this improve? These people that are pissing you off, annoying you, betraying you, what are they mirroring back about internal parts of yourself that haven't healed? Alcohol and drugs. Are you really willing to let these negative vibrations and forces permeate you and influence your behavior? Think about it again. Extreme diets and food addictions or dependencies. What part of your soul needs to be fed that you're not feeding and nurturing in the spiritual and energetic sense? Look after that, really. Dressing or acting out for attention in destructive ways. Are you seeking destruction for destruction? When you're doing something like cutting your hair or dressing in a particular way, is it actually self-expression, or are you covering up something? Are you disguising or hiding something from yourself? tattoos, and body modifications? Are you willing to create a permanent link to your spirit, to your soul, to certain people, names, entities, spiritual beings, organizations? Are you willing to be an energetic donor for the rest of your life through a tattoo on your body for something? Really put that in consideration, because it's not just like a one-day decision. It's a lifetime commitment. Holding on to indulgent victim mentality. If you look for reasons to be unhappy, you will find them. That's why two people with different perspectives on the world in the same environment go on to completely different outcomes. Lastly, manipulation, revenge, impeding on others' free will. Manipulation, let me tell you, in one sentence, for example, I came up with this sentence that transformed my life. When someone comes up to me and seeks an interaction and I don't want to continue this interaction, for example, a man wants my number and is like really persistent, I will just stop and very sincerely say, look here, I don't think this interaction will bring you the happiness you're seeking. And oftentimes people, when you speak to their soul, they can understand what your soul is conveying to their soul, and they will leave it alone, okay? So these are the incognito forms of self-harm and self-sabotage that I want you to go take inventory in your life. And that's it for today. I hope this empowers you to have a beautiful life that you deserve. You can find me on Instagram under La Princesse des Beaux-Arts, or call me on my website. I look forward so much to speaking with y'all again, and have the beautiful life you deserve, okay? Au revoir, bisous, je vous adore. Bye!